Suspect vehicle is a black BMW.
Jesus fucking Christ. Why is lighting so difficult for me? Oh my god. Well, more bed hair. Yay. Oh, Christ. Nope, I'm putting this hat back on. I'm gonna pretend I'm like a detective in a noir film. Maybe. I don't know. Jesus. Do I have to be over here? Over here? God, that's annoying. That's a little better. Oh, this is much better. Hey guys, Tom here. Welcome back to another video on the Racing Joker channel. I thought we'd just go over my journey with getting the M3 to be ready for emissions while I wait for my clock to be ready. I'm still in sleeper berth. For those of you that don't know, hi, I'm a truck driver. I'm pretty open about that. And the way being a truck driver works, it's very similar to other commercial driving careers where they want you to rest for a certain amount of time before they want you to get going again. So you aren't even legal until you've been not working for a certain amount of time. And for a truck driver, after you've been working for 14 hours a day or simply just driving for 11 hours straight, they want you to take a minimum 10-hour break. Which sounds like a lot, and let me tell you, it's really not, because 10 hours is not enough time to do all the things you need to do and sleep, at least not always. So I probably got about 7.5 hours of sleep, probably less because I woke up before the 10-hour break was up. And I've got about 24 minutes before the clock reset. So I thought I would talk about this with you guys. I might not have time to do the whole thing here today, but I wasn't sure how to make this video. At first I thought it wasn't going to be a super big project, but the E46 M3 has not been registered for about 6 months, and getting it to be re-registered was a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be. I mean, not for the reasons you would expect. So I thought it was not going to pass, potentially because of modifications I had done. And technically you could say it is because of that, but I, not being an overly mechanically or electronically inclined person, I guess, apparently, when it comes to cars, I did not realize how emissions monitors worked, and that disconnecting the battery resets things, and how everything kind of works together. And so when I had my exhaust installed, or just before I had my exhaust installed, I had actually killed the battery in my car, if you guys remember, and we had to replace it, which was really freaking annoying. Even though it wasn't a complicated job, it was just annoying. Mainly because there were a lot of distractions. I didn't know that reset everything, and I don't drive my car very often. I don't, when I do drive it, it's not a typical drive cycle. So a drive cycle is usually something really annoying that allows you to kind of get your car to do all the tests to make sure all of the emissions monitors are working. And emissions monitors can be anything from checking to make sure O2 sensors are working, the catalytic converter is working, or that your fuel tank is getting rid of all the fumes that are in it, and stuff like that.
Previously.
The drive cycle is apparently more complicated than I thought it would be. Here's an example of what it could be. Where you drive. You let it idle cold for 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Drive at 20 to 30 miles an hour for 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Then drive between 40 and 60 miles per hour for 15 minutes. And then decelerate and come to a stop and idle in gear for approximately 15 minutes. And you have to do all that. You don't exceed 3,000 RPM. You don't do large fluctuations of throttle angle, and you can't exceed road speeds of 60 miles an hour. So it's like all these hurdles I have to jump through to get everything to work. So we'll see. I don't know. It's really dark. Can you see me now? So we'll figure that out in this vlog. But those tests can only be started if you drive it a certain way and then park it or let it idle a certain way. I think every car is different, and it can be really tricky for someone like me who has a job that gives you only 40 hours of home time, not a lot of time to really dick around in your car,
to try and get it to do a certain thing, and I didn't want to dump a whole bunch of money into getting it to work without any guarantee that giving it to someone else would actually fix it. But ultimately that was the solution. Spoilers. So I did some research at first, and I was like, why is it not passing? And the guy at the test center said, did you do work on it? Did you disconnect the battery? I'm like, well, yeah, actually I did. I killed the battery, and so I had to replace it, and so that counts as disconnecting it and all that sort of stuff. And I don't drive it often enough, or drive it in a kind of drive cycle way, because a drive cycle, it usually requires that you go like 30 miles an hour or whatever for 5 minutes, and then 55 for 10 minutes. That's not really the rule of thumb. It can be different for every car, and I like to drive my car hard, because one thing you also can't do is you can't do hard acceleration, hard braking. You have to stay under 3,000 RPM or whatever. I can't remember what it was. It's stupid. It's just the worst thing in the world, and I just felt like I was getting punished at every turn. So I made several attempts at doing the drive cycles, and I thought I was doing them right. So I would spend hours out of my home time, usually my sleep time at nighttime, when there was less traffic, to try and do these drive cycles. And oh my god, it was sketchy, because I could never go faster than like 60 miles an hour. I was always going 55, and the roads around where I live that I was using for the first few attempts were 65-mile-an-hour roads, and my hazard lights don't work. Like the micro switch for the lock door button and the hazard lights don't work, because apparently the micro switch goes bad really easily for that on the E46, which is a great problem to have. It just adds to the mountain of shit I had to deal with. So I thought, okay, even though I'm not trying to circumvent emissions laws, maybe I should find another way to register this car. So I started doing research into all of the different exemptions Illinois has for emissions, for special cases in Illinois, which I think it's hilarious that they're even allowed to do that. I love that the federal government, the EPA, and state level government like Illinois are even allowed to disagree with each other when it comes to cars having to do emission testing or not, because ultimately federal law overrules state law, right? Maybe I just don't understand. I haven't been in this country for a good chunk of my life, but like, for instance, as far as I understand it, because there are some counties in Illinois where emissions testing is not required, and I think it's because there's low population density, and because they don't contribute as much to the emissions of the state as a whole. And I'm pretty sure on a nationwide basis, every state, I guess, has like an emissions quota to meet, and if they meet a certain standard or do better than that, they aren't required to do things like mandate emissions testing for vehicles when they're registered. So like places like Iowa and Washington don't have emissions testing because I don't think they have a whole lot of population density spread throughout the entire state. So the air there is always super, super clean, relatively speaking, to the rest of the country. And so you can go there in Washington, and it's some dude in his Subaru, and they can make the damn thing breathe fire. And as long as it's not super, super loud, they're really not going to ever get in trouble. And the, Washington is not likely to give a shit because they don't test it, and because it would just go under their radar anyways. I'm sure they might have language in their law somewhere where it says that's not a good thing to do, but they don't have a system set up to really go after people that do that. But then you might have the state saying, yeah, that's fine, do what you want. Or you might be like Illinois, where you have special cases with kit cars, classic cars, or whatever, or street rods, I think is one of the things they have, or custom vehicles. You get an exemption from emissions, and I go, well, why are they even allowed to do that if then the EPA can say, well, we've put this person in our crosshairs, and even though you think it's fine, Mr. Abraham Lincoln, we think it's not, so now we're going to give them huge fines. Like, the fines for violating EPA law it's insane. The fines are so huge. There's the argument that let me just tell you. Oh my God, the fan for my laptop turned on immediately as I opened Google Chrome. EPA violation fine for vehicle emissions. Violators are subject to penalties up to $45,268 per non-compliant vehicle or engine. $4,500 per tampering event or sale of a defeat device, and $45,000 per day for reporting and record-keeping violations. It's so much money, and you just go, yes, that's kind of a deterrent. And they only ever seem to want to hand out these huge fines when they want to make a big show of something. I mean, granted, there are good cases for it where it's just kind of silly stuff like shops setting up trucks to roll coal and things like that. Like, I've never really understood the appeal of that. I don't want to completely write that off, because obviously what's the point of making your car breathe fire as well? That doesn't really serve much of a purpose either. But it's not, you know, you don't see cars rolling coal very often. I don't know, but that's a different debate. I get very hung up on this stuff, and it makes me very angry. It's a lot of money, man. And you just go, well, what about all the rich people that go around in their supercars with no catalytic converters, and the people with you money, and just go, meh, $45,000, not a big deal to me. You know, come after me, whatever. Or if anything, if one rich person takes it really personally, they could be like Bill Gates and just lobby to have an exemption made for people like them. Like how the show or display exemption was made, because he wanted to bring his Porsche into the country or something like that. I can't remember what. I think it was Bill Gates. Some rich person wanted to be able to bring his gray market car into the U.S. under some kind of low mileage exemption, and that was basically granted to him. I just feel like if I tried to do something like that, that would never work. But I guess it helps to be in charge of Microsoft. My whole struggle with this has been interesting. So I went to the Illinois state government. I reached out to various different agencies, and I was like, look, what are my options? And for the most of the time, they basically said, you're f***ed. They either said, because for the collector vehicle exemption, where I just have it be under a low mileage per year category, since I drive trucks for a living, so it's not going to get that many miles per year anyways. Even if it was a 1,000 mile limitation, it wouldn't be that bad. I wasn't even allowed to do that, because in order to be eligible for the limited mileage exemptions in Illinois, you need to switch your car to some kind of collector car insurance. And now, because I'm only 25 and I don't have, I think it's like 10 years of driving experience, you aren't eligible for that insurance, and you can only be eligible for the emissions exemption if you have the collector car insurance, whether it's through like Haggerty or something else. They all require years and years of experience, and I'm like, well, that's great. It's like I could be wealthy and successful and of sound mind and have a clean record and all that sort of stuff, and have all these classic cars if I were inclined to have them, and I would still not be eligible simply because I'm not old enough. I'm not experienced enough. And so that ticked me off. that really ticked me off, because there are plenty of people I've met that should not be eligible for that because of their mental age rather than their physical age. So, oh well. So then I was like, all right, fine.
This is today's whip.
Are you ready?
Yeah!
We're doing this so we can drive around in my car, Ellie, so I can take you to your appointments in that today, okay?
Okay.
All right. But today we're in the mom-mobile, or in this case, the dad-mobile.
Oh.
I need to adjust my mirrors still. My wing mirrors.
Mom.
Just need to move them out. It's really not that bad. So basically all they said I needed 20 bucks
The VIN, the plate number, all of that vehicle information, my ID, the address needs to match and all that.
I need to figure out how to solve this because I want to drive my car and I am royally pissed off. It's been 6 months since you know, the due date to get the car registered. What else can I do? What are my options? And basically, everything had to be done in person. Everything. And that's annoying for me because I'm only ever in town on Sundays and Mondays. Because for whatever... Abraham Lincoln, I'd be tempted to slap you around if this was your idea. But apparently, government buildings must be closed on Sundays and Mondays for some schizophrenic reason. And so I'm only in town on Sundays and Mondays. The rest of the time I'm out on the road feeding our shitty economy. I'm trying to figure out if I'm allowed to do stuff remotely, and the DMV is always like, so like I've had to use 7-day extensions or permits, where basically you have to take the license plates off the car because you can't run plates, and then you put the little sticker in the back window on the driver's side, and you can drive it around and do the drive cycles with that. And then I got a couple of those. You're only allowed a certain number of them. You're only allowed 3, and in special rare cases 4. And here's the thing, because I'm only in town for 2 days a week, I can only use a day of that exemption because the facility that I could find that even sold them was only open on Mondays. Everyone else was closed on Mondays and Sundays for reasons that I could never comprehend. And so I went through a couple of these permits, tried to do the drive cycles over and over again. It never worked. I was losing my mind, and I was finally like, all right, you know what? This system sucks. I hate it. I clearly am not going to solve this. I don't have a lot of money to spare, but I want to drive my car. So, and our system for emissions in our government is just obviously just the best in the world. So I gave my car to the legends over at Cooper Auto Works. They're a great BMW shop in Edwardsville, Illinois. They helped with the exhaust install. They repaired the SMG transmission on my car. Not a lot of shops like working on SMG transmissions, but they knocked it out of the park. It was the compression. We replaced, just to be safe, the gear position sensor. We replaced all of the compression springs, all 3 of them, and the car shifts amazingly. The SMG transmission in my car is awesome. But I brought it to them, and they basically, we had 2 emissions monitors that need to be figured out. It was O2 sensors for some reason, and the EVAP. O2 sensors, you know what those are. You got the primary ones and the secondary ones, making sure that exhaust gases are being filtered and stuff like that. And then you've got the EVAP system, which is about purging the gas tank, as far as I understand, of any dangerous fumes and making sure that that system is working. I had tested a few of the systems already using not ISTA, INPA to see if it's all working. I think it was the DMTL test, and it looked like it was working, but for some reason it wasn't testing. Like, everything was working. The car was fine. and the car had passed before. It was a weird mystery. So they did a few drive cycles, and they were like, we could see through the logging software that everything is working, but it wasn't testing. So we were wondering if it was maybe something to do with the tune. And so we worked with Jordan at RK Tunes. They gave us some advice, and we worked on a little bit. Put a couple settings back to stock, basically. Changed a couple things back to stock. Tried to figure out what the issue was, what I may have messed up. And eventually, finally, we got a pass for the emissions. We got it to work. We got the monitors to go away. It passed. But could you imagine if I had tried to do this by myself? It would have taken years. it would have been, this car would have never seen the roads again until I went to another state or registered an LLC. Like, at this point, maybe I need to just register a company in Canada. Because there are provinces in Canada where emissions straight up are not required. It's not a gray area where the federal government and the state government disagrees. They straight up don't require it. So I could register a car up there, bring it down here on like a bond or something, and the police here would not be able to say shit. The only exception being noise ordinances and things like that. Sorry, I got distracted by my phone. Basically, keep an eye on what you're doing. Emissions monitors are a thing. If you need advice and you don't know what you're doing, talk to qualified people, use forums, whatever. Point of the matter is, the E46 M3 is back, and I'm gonna start doing some more videos with it because I love driving this car. All right, and I need to do more stuff with it. It's literally my dream car, and it's been in my garage, mainly sitting for the past 6 months, and that's just a crime. That's just awful. So, we're gonna fix that. We're going to do some more videos with it. I got lots of parts I need to put on it still. I'm waiting for my airbox to come back from being dyno tested on an engine dyno, and we'll kind of go from there. And then we'll probably put a side exhaust on it, all kinds of stuff. You know the plan. We're building a BMW M3 GTR. Anyways, I'm Tom the Racing Joker. I hate the government most of the time. The older I get, the more I just hate the government, because I just, for all the reasons in the world that you might expect, and that's kind of it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you've seen so far and you're not subscribed yet, this probably won't be the video that gets you to subscribe, but in case you're thinking about it, you should do it, because you'll like what I got planned. Anyways, you know me, I'm Tom. This is an awful outro. I just woke up. Leave me alone. Get out of here. Go on with your day. Have a nice morning. Have a cup of coffee, unless that makes you shit, in which case maybe don't. And that's my alarm. I will see you all next time. At least I better. See ya.